Hi Ramanand. In this episode, we're going to talk about a famous book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. So, what is this book all about, and what is your main takeaway from this book?
Hi, Harish. So I think influence teaches us that we all need shortcuts to make decisions, especially complex decisions. And like we discovered in the previous episode, our system to it only applies in certain situations. It's otherwise very lazy. What influence tells us that we use shortcuts, reliable shortcuts, such as social proof, such as scarcity. And the book talks about these key elements that have been uncovered through research.
So, a lot of these concepts have been actually used by people in sales, people in marketing, people in UX designs of websites. A lot of them might not have even known that there were these theoretical frameworks or concepts, but they were using these ideas because they were working. Is that right?
In fact, in a previous episode, we spoke about defense and offense, right? When we use certain ideas to protect ourselves, but we use certain ideas to convey our point, sell our wares, and so on. You rightly mentioned that salespeople, whether they read a book like this or they just received wisdom that was passed on by others who stumbled upon something like this, you will see a common pattern. You will see different salespeople selling to us differently. And we live in an age where we can consider everyone to be selling something or the other. So you will find even the UX designer having to contribute to telling us that this particular product is a bestseller because so many people like you have bought it. Whereas this other product there's only one copy left, so you better get it before it's time. Influence is all around us, whether you use it for offense or defense. Have you had any case where you had to defend yourself against influencers?
Yeah, after reading this book, you actually realize that you're being played all the time. So, in fact, while most of the time we talk about this book and these concepts in the context of sales, we at Choose to Think don't really do any sales training, right? But we have clearly used ideas from this book. So, where have we used it, and how have we applied ideas from the book Influence?
So I think social proof and scarcity, that is limited number of quantities. These are things that a lot of people are intuitively familiar with. So let me talk about something called as commitment, which is also a principle that is there in influence. So commitment says that if you were to publicly commit to something, you want to remain true to that promise. And there is something inside you that we will not go stray away from almost like a vow that we take. So we've all often noticed that when you start building habits, which is something that we create through our CTQ compounds offerings, or even when we have done occasional events where there are quizzing is involved, we find it useful to get certain kinds of commitments at the beginning. And the beginning is important. These are promises that you will play the game in a particular way. That's because it's very easy to stray and to not follow through, not read every day, not decide to write every other day, or even to maybe cheat occasionally when no one is watching. So by making a commitment in advance when you begin, you actually the likelihood that you will build this habit just goes up, and that is what influence has taught us. That's one place that we've actually used this idea. Can you remember anything else that we have done which use influence?
Yeah, in fact, if you think of the ways that we have come up with for increasing engagement for our microsite within companies where we put up these repository of stories by giving something to people for free. So then there is like a sense of obligation or reciprocity the book talks about, where yes, because you've given me something free, I'm going to give you something in return. In this case, it may be attention or time, and that's how you slowly get them in to know more about what we are talking about. And I think the interesting part, and the book actually talks about it, is how to use these principles ethically. In fact, you were mentioning about the defense and offense part. The book was actually written for consumer activists to know how they're being played by the salespeople across different industries. But over whatever 20 years, I think the author was invited for probably 3 such talks to address consumers. But he was, I think, called for a few hundreds of talks by sales teams to help their people weaponize these concepts, so to say. So I think knowing these ideas and using them in the right context, in the right and for the right reasons is also very important, which we've been doing with all the people that we are working with.
True, and that's why persuasion has been cited as one of the most timeless skills ever. You have a lot of people, if you talk to them about what should be in someone's future stack set of trends and skills that you should keep your eye out and learn about, persuasion will be part of it, because as long as there are humans, we are going to play each other, and you better have this, if not for offense, but at least for defense.
And the interesting thing is the last 3 episodes that we have recorded, whether it's trying to make your communication sticky or whether it's system 1 and system 2, thinking fast and slow, and influence, they're all interrelated. I think that will give our listeners an idea of how all these concepts and books and frameworks that we're talking about, how they can actually start enmeshing with each other. And that's what the Uplevelers toolkit is all about, right?
Yeah, if you committed to listening to the first episode, I think you'll make it all the way.
Yeah, just a couple of questions before we end this episode, Ramanan. What are people missing because they don't know these ideas from this book?
Yes, we've heard a lot of leaders and decision makers tell us that as they grow, or as they grew in their ladder, one of the things that they felt that they lacked was this ability to persuade, because you as a leader, you often just get your way, and then you soon find that everybody just responds to certain kinds of very harsh incentives. You shove and you push, but you don't get to nudge, and this makes a lot of people uncomfortable. What they don't realize then is that there are a lot of ways in which you can tilt the balance in your favor by using some of these very ethically, these practices called out in influence. And you can actually make the world a better place as a result. To anyone who hasn't read Influence so far, what you're missing out is this very systematic approach to persuasion. Persuasion doesn't come very naturally to all of us, and plus persuasion and influence has a negative connotation. You read this book, you will find out how it is possible to do this in an environment of integrity. And actually, if you think you're doing good to the world, persuasion will help you get there.
Right. And I think another point that I'm hearing from what you said just now is that people don't need to feel bad that someone just has this, natural flair of influence and persuading people. There is science to it, and everyone can actually apply these principles and this framework to be able to actually influence people.
So persuasion and influence is your shortcut to helping other people make better decisions.
Yeah. Why do you consider this book as an important part of the Uplevelers toolkit?
I think it is going to be in everyone's future stack, whether they want it or not. And if you are not influential, you will not get to be future relevant. As simple as that.
All right. I think hopefully we've influenced enough people to go and pick up that book and read it before they get to our next episode.